Good evening, it's 9 p.m. You're with ET now. This is the India Development Debate. I'm Sandeep. Gurumurthy joining you from our news center in Mumbai. Joining me in Delhi is my colleague Supriya. Shrinate. It's a power-packed edition. We've got two legs of the debate. The first one on the crisis in Tuticorin, and of course at 9:30 a special series on the Modi government's 4-year report card, where we analyze the hits and misses of the central government's drive to formalize the economy. That's coming up at 9:30 p.m. on the India Development Debate. But first up, the big debate on the show this evening. It's a moment of shame for the country. At least 13 people have been killed in police firing as the environment versus development battle turned ugly in Tuticorin. It's a complete failure of the intelligence and law enforcement agencies as they misread the simmering situation at the Sterlite copper site, where local residents have been protesting against the company's expansion project for the last 100 days. In fact, this project of Anil Agarwal has been mired in controversy since inception way back in 1994. Facing severe criticism, the Tamil Nadu government has blamed it all on anti-social elements, even as the centre has sought a detailed report from the state government.
Now, on his part, Vedanta Group Chair Anil Agarwal says it is a conspiracy against him by foreign firms that are looking to step up their trade with India. Niyamgiri, Nandigram, Shingur and now Tuticorin. It is a high time that India brought in a comprehensive policy to strike the right balance between mega industrial projects and the very crucial environmental concerns. The Madras High Court may have stayed Sterlite's expansion plans in Tuticorin, but that is not a permanent solution either. On the India Development Debate this evening, we discuss the ramifications of the turmoil in Tuticorin and what it means for India's industrial development. All right, joining us on the debate this evening, we've got P. Ramanath, the CEO of Sterlite Copper Vedanta, on the phone line here with us. We also have Bahar Dutt, environment journalist, and Gopal Shankar Narayanan, advocate, Supreme Court of India, joining us right here. Thanks very much, each one of you, for being with us. And Bahar, if I may begin with you, this is not the first time that Sterlite has clashed with citizens, just like we told in our story there, an activist in Tamil Nadu. The copper smelter project has faced questions since it came to Tamil Nadu in 1994, after it was reportedly being rejected by 3 states in the country. Now, what has changed this time around?
Well, I must outline here, you've said that this is a debate of environment versus development. I wish it was that. This is a question of law and order. And I'm saying not law and order as far as, police action and citizens. I'm talking about the fact that here is a company where there have been repeated violations, and the company continues to get away with it. And I'm really glad that we have the company with us, because I have been talking on TV debates. We've had, whether it is the Supreme Court or whether it's the Green Tribunal, whether it's the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, there has been a repeated checkered history as far as violations are concerned. Just to set out to our viewers, you're saying that maybe India needs a new paradigm of, environmental laws or some, I think we need to remind ourselves that in fact India has the best environmental laws. We're probably the 3rd country in the world to have the National Green Tribunal. So the systems are there. What is missing is the enforcement. And as tempers and emotions are running high, I'd like to stick to basic facts. And fact is that you don't need me. If you just go on the internet, you can see the public reports out there. You can see RTI inquiries which show that the green belt which Vedanta Sterlite was supposed to make for 250 meters was reduced to 25 meters. The fact that there was a potential gas leak in 2013, there were people who were impacted, their health was impacted. So all the data and the evidence is out there. So this has really built up over the years. This is not a 100-day protest, it's a decade-old protest.
Let's get a view from Sterlite, Mr. Ramnath. Sterlite has been accused of being a serial offender. This sort of goes back right to when you entered Tamil Nadu in 1994. The first case was filed just a year later, and there have been multiple cases over the years. Why have you not been able to sort of take concrete steps to keep your word, to resolve these issues, sit across the table with activists and residents and address these concerns? Mr. Ramnath.
Short-term impact in terms of market, I would say that Sterlite is giving 2.5 lakh tons per annum of copper in the domestic market. So that much amount of copper will need to be imported, and that will be close to $2 billion. And apart from that, we also supply sulfuric acid, we also supply phosphoric acid to core industries like fertilizer industry and other industries like various other chemical industries like detergent industry, etc. And all these industries will certainly suffer because right now, if you can see, prices of sulfuric acid have tripled over the last couple of months. And that is certainly putting all the customers to a lot of trouble. And in terms of copper, copper is basically looked at as the bellwether of the progress of any country. And the growth rate of copper demand is linked to the GDP of a country. And given that a lot of initiatives are being taken by the government in terms of rural electrification, in terms of railway electrification, smart cities, focus on renewable energy, etc., we expect that the demand for copper over the next few years should increase tremendously, maybe to around 8 to 10% per annum. And therefore, the requirement for copper in the country is going to go up by leaps and bounds from the current low 0.5 kg per metric ton, per capita consumption, which is very low as compared to, say, China, which is around 7 to 8 kg per capita, and the world average of roughly around 3 to 4 kg.
No, Mr. Ramnath, I realize that you're trying to put on record the implications that a shutdown will have on the economy and the sector and on investments and jobs and all of that. But what Sandeep asked really was that Sterlite has been accused of being a serial offender, and this goes way back right to when you entered Tamil Nadu in 1994. The first case, to the best of my knowledge, was filed just a year later, and there have been multiple cases over the years. Why haven't you been able to take steps to resolve this? Sit across the table, like he said, with activists and residents and get to a solution, because this smacks of being a serial offender. Mr. Ramnath?
So actually, if you see over the years, the number of improvements which have been made in our industry, in our unit, it is phenomenal. If you look at the kind of investments in environmental mitigation measures, I don't think any single company would have had this kind of investment in environment mitigation measures. And we've invested nearly 500 crores over the years in various measures. And right now, I think we have one of the most state-of-the-art environmental measures that can be there. Like, for example, we have something called a fence line monitoring system, which I don't think any other company in India has. It is one of the latest and state-of-the-art equipment, which measures any emission which leaves the periphery of our plant, and that gets recorded. And we also have our stacks, which are connected 24/7 to the Pollution Control Board Care Air Center in Chennai. So various measures have been taken, and whatever various recommendations which have been given by NIRI, which have been given by the NGT independent committee, they've all been incorporated. And therefore, we feel that we are open. We are not saying that no company can say that they are 100% environmentally, complying, because there is always, that room for improvement. But I would say that we have traveled a huge distance over the years, and I don't think, that we are second to none. Even if you compare us to any of the world smelters, I would say that we would rank in the top quartile.
Okay, jury is still out on whether you've traveled that distance, but let me get in Gopal Shankar Narayanan and get his view then. Sterlite has had a close call with shutdowns quite a few times. While the Madras High Court ordered a shutdown in 2010, this was overturned by the Supreme Court a few days later and then imposed a 100 crore fine in 2013, after which again it was business as usual. Will the situation this time as well go back to business as usual? Do you fear that happening, or will this be the final straw to break Sterlite's back, so to speak, in this particular plant?
Well, I sincerely feel that it should be the last straw, because there have been many straws before this. Sterlite is a UK company which is seems to be hell-bent on exploiting the natural resources of other countries while making people die in the campaign. They've done this in Zambia, the Kafoe River, right along it. 2,000 residents took them to court. Even now, the Zambia government is out as against Sterlite. They have done this with their own projects in Orissa. We have heard that saga going on. This has happened from 1994 after they were rejected by Maharashtra, Goa and Gujarat to finally get the clearances, strangely in Tamil Nadu, because strangely the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board gave them rapid clearances, which was extremely exceptional, which helped them when they went to the Supreme Court in appeal. The Supreme Court felt that because they had put on all these numbers and said, you know, we manufacture more than 50% of the copper requirement of India, it would be overwhelming to possibly close it down at that stage. But they said 100 crores to be paid, to be imposed on the company. It was going to be kept with the government with interest on it over a 5-year period, and the government was going to take steps for reinforcing and correcting all the environmental wrongs that had been committed by the company. None of that seems to have taken place. In addition, right now, Sterlite has the compunction to want to expand that project, and the gentleman just now made this extremely disingenuous statement trying to scare us by telling us how our economy is going to crumble because this little UK company is going to stop its copper production. Let's remind him that his own statements in the Supreme Court involved the copper only 50% of it being for India's use, and the rest of it is exported, from which they make many, many big bucks which go to the pockets in Britain. Let's also remind the gentleman in question that as far as the Supreme Court itself was concerned in 2013, they said that this judgment of ours does not prevent the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board from closing down the company and passing orders that they have to in the interests of the environment. The Pollution Control Board, in my view, is completely hand in glove with Sterlite in turning a blind eye over all these years. And this is a very, very serious issue, like Bahar pointed out. Internationally, Sterlite is #1 in causing these kind of environmental hazards. People have died. There are carcinogenics out there. There's arsenic as per the Niri report. What is necessary is our regulatory agencies
Gopal,
sending
just
out a very, very strong message.
We understand that. Gopal, you've made your point. Let me please go back to Bahar. Okay, Gopal, let me just go back to Bahar. And Bahar, is a complete shutdown the solution here? Mining industry per se causes pollution. What is the alternative here? A full-scale environment audit perhaps?
Well, Supriya, I'd like to just outline here, I think no one is saying stop industry. I mean, I think industry has to stop behaving like this spoiled child, you know, which doesn't like to be reprimanded from time to time. I think activists, local people, everybody has been saying that you have been given an environment clearance on the basis of certain conditions. Just follow those conditions. I'll give you a simple example. They were asked to develop a green belt of 250 meters. This was in 1994, and Sterlite repeatedly wrote back you know, into the system saying we can't have it for 250 meters, can you shrink it to 25 meters. So even when conditions are imposed, they refuse to comply with them. The second instance I can give is you know, in 2013 when there was the gas leak, the sulfur dioxide emissions they were saying were at double the levels, and if you, there are RTI queries with the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board which also show that they are producing far above the allowed capacity. So I really wish, I have personally nothing against Vedanta or Mr. Ramnath, but one would really hope that you know, when the CEO comes on air or when he meets journalists, at least they would be more honest about what they're doing, and they would be you know, not so arrogant. I think that's the problem, and I don't want to make this into a personal story, but I can tell you that there is an environment of fear which is created in these areas. I've reported in you know, Odisha where the Vedanta plant was coming up, and I was called up by the Vedanta PR agency and told, you are just a journalist, remember that. So just imagine the plight of the people who live in that area and how much courage it takes to actually stand up to these companies. I think that's what we need to remember.
Fair point. Mr. Ramnath, just so that, would Vedanta, would the Sterlite Group be prepared for a full-scale environment audit? Let the facts come out in public domain. Let us know, how much of your commitments are you sort of fulfilling on the ground? Would you be open to a full-scale, no conditions asked environment audit?
Absolutely. That's what I've been saying, that over the years, there have been several committees which have visited us, and they have been satisfied with the kind of measures that we have taken. However, they feel that some improvements can be done. So therefore, those improvements have been suggested, and we have incorporated all those improvements.
All right. Gopal, if I may ask you this, and a lot of people out there and a lot of critics out there are drawing parallels between the protests at Tuticorin and those at Kudankulam. That these protests are being funded by church-backed activists. How are you going to respond to this?
I think even if that's true, that's not relevant. Over a period of nearly 24 years, we have had catalogued incidents of environmental problems in this particular project. This has in fact compelled one constitutional court to completely close it down and another constitutional court to impose 100 crores on it. So for me, let's not get sidelined and distracted by the fact that there may be some extraneous elements who are jumping on the bandwagon, who are trying to score a point here or there. I think this happens inevitably with many, many issues. I'm sure politicians also must be taking sides on this. There must be other business interests as well who are behind this. So I can imagine all that. The rivals of Vedanta must be out there, both in the press and elsewhere, trying to create hassles as far as Vedanta is concerned. I am talking about the clear declared facts, and here's where I would differ slightly from my friend Bahar. I think the time has come for us to have a strong message sent out to corporates. If you are going to insult the honor and the humanity of Indians repeatedly over a period of time, you have to be shut down. I think that needs to be done.
Okay. I take that point, but before I come back to you, Bahar, a quick word from Ramnath again. Vedanta founder today, Mr. Anil Agarwal, issued a pre-recorded statement and he alleged the presence of a foreign hand. I'm trying to understand, are these diversionary tactics? He's alleged the presence of a foreign hand here to make India reliant on imports. I mean, on what basis is that statement being made? What is giving you the conviction, the proof that this entire exercise is being funded by some external forces? How are you making such a startling claim, Mr. Ramnath?
It is very much possible because the NGOs being involved in sort of destabilizing Indian industry is not a new news that is being told right now. There have been various studies, various articles which have come up, and recently there have been several NGOs which have been I think whose funds have been stopped under FCRA. So I wouldn't like to name any of the NGOs, but there are some of the prominent NGOs. Funds have been stopped under this. So it is very much possible, given the kind of circumstances that we're seeing in this particular case. If you see that over the last 5 to 6 years, since 2013 when the NGT order was passed, the NGT very clearly said, and it said very clearly that our plant is not a polluting plant and is not expected to be a polluting plant in the future. It gave an absolute green chit after an independent committee consisting of CPCB member secretary, the TNPCB member secretary, 2 IIT professors. They came, and they did not come only once, they came thrice. And each of the times, they spent at least about 3 to 4 days in going through the entire plant. And ultimately, once they were satisfied in the first 2 visits, they actually stayed back, and for a period of 15 days, in their presence, the entire operation was monitored, and only after they were fully satisfied did the NGT give the go-ahead signal. So thereafter, over the last 5 to 6 years, there has been absolutely no incident whatsoever, and the Pollution Control Board has been visiting us regularly, taking whatever groundwater samples, taking whatever air samples that are required, verifying the calibration of our equipment, coming and seeing that all the procedures are as per the standards. So they've done everything that is there.
Bahar, I'll come to you and ask you a very moot question. Are you convinced that this is not so much a Sterlite or a Vedanta issue, but a trade-off that every copper or mining industry has to grapple with, that they're inevitably pollution causing, or is the Vedanta case far more serious? And if your answer is yes to that, I'm interested to know why.
Yeah, well, my answer is yes to that. Of course, every industry is polluting. Of course, every industry has a footprint on the environment. But, you know, this is just such a convenient way to brush aside, you know, the excessive pollution that they're causing, the blatant violations of laws. And you know, Gopal said, okay, why am I being so generous to them? The point is that if we just go and say, okay, Vedanta should shut shop, the problem is it absolves them of the mess that they've created in that area, and that's why I have a problem. They have not followed. I mean, I still don't hear the CEO of Vedanta. He's still not addressing the specific violations against his company. He's still not telling us about the green belt within his compound. He's still not telling us what are the sulfur dioxide levels. He's still not addressing the fact that they were functioning above capacity. He's still not addressing the fact that without a public hearing they went ahead. He's not even addressing the fact that the case which he's talking about of the Green Tribunal is back in the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of airbrushing going on here, and we are not addressing the specifics of the situation. So I don't want to indulge in this environment versus development and these highbrow intellectual arguments. I want from the CEO of Vedanta Sterlite very specific answers. I don't want to be told how good they are for the Indian economy.
Oh yes, absolutely. Gopal, you know, Bahar made that point about how we should not make this a highbrow intellectual debate, and I take that point, but you know, because this is an India development debate and we sort of take up development issues, and I think, you know, unlike a lot of other business channels, we don't want to sort of give a sort of blanket clean chit to industry and sort of fight for the case, because the Vedanta group has a track record, and which is what sort of, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely, Sandeep. I agree with you.
Yeah, so
right.
My point to you is, what is the way forward then? I mean, to take this.
I get you. I'm not disputing that.
Yeah, so Gopal, if I could come to you, what is the way forward then? I mean, you know, how do we sort of have orderly industrialization viable in a developing economy that needs big investments, that needs jobs and lots of jobs? I mean, in Tuticorin alone, Sterlite, I'm told, employs 30,000 people directly and indirectly. So, you know, how does one sort of, in this trade-off, how does one find the right balance?
I think the answer to that question comes slightly from what the Sterlite CEO was drawing your attention to. He mentioned how NGOs have been audited over a large period of time. What is absent, however, is how big companies have not been audited. Now, I have always been curious about how billionaires overnight in India usually seem to profit from the natural resources of this country. Others seem to make it on their own through strict entrepreneurship. But when it comes to mining, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to cement plants, when it comes to bridges, contracts of roads and stuff like that, you find big companies suddenly growing up, going and registering in England and stuff like that. I think one of the necessary steps that we must have is to ensure that there must be a very, very strict scrutiny when natural resources are being auctioned off. And in that, we have methodologies which have been used which are very questionable. We have governments, in fact, which ensure that the parameters are such that one or two specific bidders are the only ones who could possibly qualify, and then move forward to give their technical or financial bids. We have had this problem across all natural resources. Today we find the Prime Minister and others talking about how we are going to solve the high petroleum price issue in India, forgetting the fact that on the sea coast of Gujarat, we have the first, fourth and seventh largest refineries in the world, all run by Indians, all exporting every single drop of Indian fuel. Why don't we just divert that for Indian use? That solves your problem. The problem, therefore, is that we have certain big companies which are not being audited, which are allowed to get away with this.
Okay. Mr. Ramnath, it's not just Sterlite. The Vedanta group on the whole has had a very patchy record, and this has come up in this discussion. multiple times over when it comes to pollution norms, be it Niyamgiri, Goa, Chhattisgarh or even Zambia. Is there a credibility crisis that you face on this account here?
I wouldn't say that. No, our commitment to health, safety and environment is absolutely paramount. And, we have set up Vedanta standards based on IFC and based on ICMM standards. And based on that, we've even gone to the extent of recruiting world-renowned experts as health and safety heads in all the various plants of Vedanta to ensure that we give the kind of health safety and environment gets the kind of focus that is required. So our focus on health safety and environment is absolutely on the top, and starting right from the top management, starting from the chairman downwards, and down to each of the unit heads and down to each of the plant heads and the workers below. And definitely the kind of focus will has certainly yielded results. I don't think what you're talking about, the track record, is any different than any of the other mining companies. As an industry, is prone to some kind of safety issues, etc. But the thing is, the point to note is that how the mitigation measures are taken. And over the years, I think we have taken a number of mitigation measures which are starting to yield results.
At the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. Completely timed out, unfortunately, on this leg of the India development debate. Can't thank you enough, Mr. Ramnath, Bahar, and of course Gopal for joining us with that perspective. On that heated debate, that we tried to keep the politics outside of the debate. There's been a lot of politics on this issue as well, but that at the core distracts from the core of this debate, because this is as much about development as it is about environment. And in this trade-off, very often we choose to ignore the environment, and that's something that we can ill afford to do. We're going to step into a short break. Supriya is going to tell us what's coming up on the other side of this India development debate.
Indeed, the second edition of the India Development Debate puts the spotlight on a special series, the 4-year report card. And tonight we discuss the formalization of the Indian economy. Has that happened under the Modi government? The big hits and the misses, the formalization and the financialization of the Indian economy is coming up right next.